My first year, I would walk in the classroom and be like, oh no, I have no lesson plan. What do I do? Oh God, what do we do? What's the lesson today? Second year, it's like, okay, I got this. I got this. Third year, I'd walk in, shades on, like, what's up, punks? Let's learn some English. And it was great. And they would cheer and clap and, you know, hashtag that really happened. I'm very excited to watch this video. This is by Chris Abroad, who is a well-known YouTuber in Japan. He's a guy from England. Seems quite swell. Moved to Japan several years ago and has been doing some fantastic kind of journalistic views and kind of journalistic videos about Japan stuff. Now, this one's like what teaching English in Japan was really like. And I'm very excited to watch this because I've been in Japan and I've been teaching for 6 years now. 6 years. 4 of those have been as an assistant language teacher, and 2 of those have been as a private English school. I work in a private school. And so I'm curious to hear his experience. Now, it says here already, having taught 3 years with 2,000 hours of classroom experience, I take a look at the highs and lows that come with the job. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of highs and lows. And I will say English is one of the best ways to get into Japan if you're interested. It's one of the best ways to start because there's lots of people hiring. There's tons of people hiring and stuff. And in this field, maybe more than other fields, because really all you gotta do is speak English. You don't even have to technically you don't have to be a native English speaker. I know a lot of second language speakers that come here and do well teaching. So anyway, we're gonna watch this out. We're gonna watch this. Yeah, this will go on YouTube. So if you're watching YouTube, hey, enjoy. I hope it turns out well. I'm looking forward to giving some thoughts on this one. So let's see what's he got to say, and let me know how the audio is.
I found this book at the back of my cupboard yesterday. It's a book filled with goodbye messages from Japanese students I used to teach. I got this in my last week as an English teacher.
Bro, I got like dozens of these. I should have pulled them out, but maybe I will later. But I have like a bunch of these like cute little books and things that people have made for me.
Now, I don't want to brag too much, but you'll get a sense of what a great English teacher I was and the positive impact I had just by reading out a few of these messages. We've got one here from Yuka who says, "Dear Chris, hello Chris. Thank you so far. It was always fun." Of course it was. "Watch for a body. It will become big. VIP to big." What? This was written, what?
Oh my god, watch for a body. It will become big. I guess this one's working out. There's a lot of comments about weight and working out with these little kids.
4 years ago, and I still don't know what that means. I mean, to me, VIP to big sounds like a chronically overweight rapper. But perhaps it is alluding to the fact that at the time I was teaching, a lot of students and teachers were worried that I was putting on weight just because my diet was pretty awful. It does seem to be a recurring theme amongst a few of these messages. Got one here from Karen who says, "Dear Chris, thank you for teaching English until now. It was fun to be able to club together. It's important to point out for legal reasons, I didn't go clubbing with underage students. She is just referring to the after-school English club." And she continues, "Please be stomach much more healthy in the future." Please be stomach much more healthy in the future. Well, I did heed her words. I'm not yet entirely stomach, but it's just...
Bro, this is so true that, like, I've had so many teachers and students. I don't know what it is, but just, like, it's just in general, people are much more happy to comment on weight and stuff like that. It's just so too like I'm from America and I'm used to like talking about weight is a no-no. Like you may compliment someone if they lost weight or something. You may, you know, with your friends, you may mess with your friends and poke fun at them. But like you hear, they just so common. Like any change of weight, whether I went up or down, people would comment like, "Oh, you've gained some weight. Oh, you're looking fatter." Like, "Oh, you look so skinny or nice." There's so many like. So much, and it's yeah, it's kind of weird too, especially like typically Japanese are quite thin in general. There are definitely people of different weight sizes. Look at sumo, but in general they're quite thin. So it's so weird. And also they it's not just like being a foreigner too. They'll also make fun of each other all the time. I'll see them like teasing each other, like calling someone else fat. Like it's so bizarre too, because there may be like another student who's like quite skinny. In my opinion, are quite healthy looking, and then but like kids are like, "Oh, you're so fat, so fat." Like, no, it's bizarre. It's always the way people seem to notice. Yeah, there's just this fixation on it, which I think, in my opinion, I think the pressures and comments and that kind of like judgment of weight and stuff, I think it is a sort of a dark motivation to stay healthy and fit. I think there are definitely people who do that, who like stay fit because they don't want to be mocked by their friends and family even. Yeah.
Just nice, reading through these heartwarming comments. Reminds me of a simpler time, a time when I used to teach English in a room to thousands of students. And today, given that I've discovered lots of stuff from my past, I thought I would discuss teaching English in Japan because it's a popularly requested topic. And I've got a lot of stories and experience from my time teaching with over 2,000 hours of classroom experience that I can...
I'm going to move myself up a little bit because I see I'm blocking subtitles. I think subtitles are worth having on screen. We'll move my little cat cam upper corner. Actually, let me put this like right under chat. This cat cam is very important because we got to make sure we see Ori at all times. Okay. There we go. That was pretty good.
Draw upon. I'm not going to hold back on my opinions today on the teaching methods, the teachers, the students, the environment. I'll try and cover it all, so you know what you're getting into if you should follow a similar path. Now, I'll be open up front about the fact that I didn't come to Japan because I was excited about the prospect of teaching English. Like 80% of people, I came to teach English in Japan because I was excited about the prospect of living in Japan. In my rare defence, I did take a short course on teaching English as a foreign language at my university, and my degree was in business and English linguistics. So, I can speak really good English words. I know all the most best words that there is. This bunch of torn and tea-stained documents. Why is there a tea stain on it? This is my original JET application.
That's so British.
Application for the Japan Exchange Teaching Program.
So British having tea stains on there.
At the back of my wardrobe. I didn't even know I had this still. Now I know the criteria for getting on the JET program or getting a job teaching English in Japan. I can see that my application has none of those things. I mean, it's so bad that I even wrote about a holiday that I had in Dubai as an example of culture shock and how I'd be able to adapt to culture shock in Japan. I was culture shocked by Dubai because it was hot and there's lots of sand. And I hate sand. That's not even culture, that's just a geographical fact. And for the section on Japanese language ability, it's just blank, there's nothing there. Nevertheless, with my wealth of cultural experiences, I got on the JET program. I somehow passed the application process and I ended up with the role as an ALT, Assistant Language Teacher. And I got placed right here in a beautiful rural area.
I also came to Japan through the JET program. That is how I came to Japan, is I applied, I went to the JET program. It is the Japanese, it actually stands for, people think it's Japanese English Teaching Program, but it actually stands for Japanese Exchange Teaching Program. Because it's not only about teaching English, that's a big part of it, but it's also about like exposing Japanese students to foreigners and get an idea of what it's like to kind of like talk and interact with people from other countries. I think it's a good, cool program. But I applied to the JET program. So here's my story real quick. I want to go on this on a bigger video sometime. Can we zoom in? There we go. So I applied to the JET program and, I applied the last year, my senior year of college, and I was hoping for it. You apply in like November, December time, and then in March they let people know. March. Like we usually graduate in May, so by March you kind of have an idea if you're going or not. And I got deferred, so it was basically a maybe. I didn't get a yes. I didn't get a no. I wasn't rejected. I didn't get accepted. It wasn't a yes. It was like maybe. I think it was called deferred placement because basically like they've had like enough good candidates. So if there's an opening, they will assign you. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's like a pretty good chance. Maybe they just like aim, small, and then a lot of people leave, things come up, maybe I'll get in. That was my plan, was to just, I guess I'll wait and find out. And I waited. And I waited. And usually April is a good time where people have that's like the deadline to accept or not. So usually that's a time where you might get some switches. A lot of people say no, they do something else. Also July, people leave in July, August. That's another time people last minute may cancel. So I waited for then to see, and still nothing. It wasn't until December of that year that I finally got the okay. And I got an email. I actually had just reapplied to it, which was helpful because I had all the documents they needed to to go the next step because I'd already just like a medical check. I just did one, so it was pretty easy. But yeah, I got deferred, and I was like, which was a bummer. And so I waited for a long time, and it was with nothing else, just kind of hoping to work out, and it did, thankfully. And I got placed in. I got the email saying, "Hey, are you still interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And the next email was like, "Cool, here's your job." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It wasn't like a yes or no. It was just like, "Are you interested?" Yeah, I'm interested, but yeah, they just gave me a job. And I didn't like technically say yes. I just sort of like said, "Yes, I'm interested." But I happily accepted. And they gave me a job in, and they told me like, here, he's going to say he was chosen, but they choose for you. You choose like your preference. You can like write, "Oh, who's my preference?" They normally don't do that. Unless you do pick like a kind of special, like maybe a small unpopular area, they may be able to satisfy that. But for me, I chose Osaka because I'd studied there before. Obviously, I didn't get that. And they chose me. They said in my form, "Congratulations, you're going to Shimonoseki in Yamaguchi." I was like, woo! Where? Turns out here, the tip of the little bottom right here, you can see of Japan, of the whole kind of country, and like kind of down low. And turned out, good experience. Let's keep going.
Where absolutely nobody feels the need to know English. Now, I've heard a lot of people criticise the JET programme over the years because they say that money invested in the foreign teacher could be spent on Japanese teachers, it could be spent elsewhere in better ways. But Lord knows they need more foreigners in rural Japan. I once dated a Japanese girl from that town, and when it came to meeting her mum had never met a white person before, despite being 50-something. So I met her, and she was actually so scared of me that she hid behind her daughter. She was scared as if I was some sort of rabid dog who would rip her arm off, which, you know, I wouldn't do that. That's not the sort of thing I would do. To be fair, I did think about going along with it and being like, "Oh yeah, yoroshiku onegaishimasu." But I didn't do that because I'm not mental. The senior high.
I'm not mental, dude. That's a funny experience. It's true though. There's a lot of kids who like who English teachers at school is their only and first way to like meet people outside, that non-Japanese people. When I met my wife and then girlfriend, when I met her mom, I still remember. So we'd been dating a couple months, and I kept saying like, I look forward to meeting your parents, and she actually brought her mom to my apartment, and she saw me, and the first thing she said was like, "Oh," she remembered, she's like, "Oh, 本当に外人ですね。外国人、本当に外国人ですね。外国人ですね." Which means like, "Oh, you're a foreigner. You're really a foreigner," and kind of in a polite way. Because apparently, my lovely wife, again, then when she as my girlfriend, she didn't tell her mom much about me at all. Just like, "Hey, I have a boyfriend. I want you to meet him." She didn't mention that, you know, I'm of another culture entirely. Yeah, she said, "Hontoni gaijin," like, really, you're really a foreigner. Oh, she was quite happy to. She's since then just always been wonderful. Even then too, but she was just like surprised, like, "Oh, I see." And then the way she acted, I was like, did she know anything about me? Apparently not. But she learned a lot. Which, like I will say on my wife's behalf, it is nice of her that like it wasn't a big deal. She didn't care that I was from another country. It didn't matter. It was just like, I'm me, and she likes me for some reason. So it was really cute that she didn't tell her mom anything about me. Yeah, the way he said his girlfriend was scared of him, that reminds me of the scene in the new Spider-Man No Way Home. If you've seen that. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Man, good times. So let's see. So yeah, I had a good experience, but it's true. Like, you definitely need like, I think a big part of the program is not just the teaching English. It's that you get to meet foreign people and foreign ideas and stuff. It's really quite cool. Yeah, was she aware they understood her? I don't know. I guess I did use like basic Japanese, so I guess she assumed I could speak some, and I did like the whole greetings, like, "Oh, yoroshiku onegaishimasu" and stuff. I don't know, man. I'm not sure what she explained, but she was quite happy to see me.
High school where I worked had about 1,200 students. It was pretty big, and they were all aged 16 to 18. Within that school, there are about 12 English teachers and 120 teachers in general.
Holy crap, that's big. My biggest school was 600 students, and there was like 5 English teachers. So he did double all that. Wow, good for him.
Quickly found out when I arrived that of the dozen teachers that I was going to work with, only 8 of them actually spoke English. The others had somehow slipped the net. And I don't mean they spoke English badly. I mean, they just genuinely really struggled to communicate in English, which was quite a surreal situation to be in. I never held it against them. They were all over 50 years old, and I suspect when they did apply to teach English, the extent of the language test must have just been, what is your favourite colour? Red. You're in. However, one of the things that I've been taught...
That's quite funny, but he's not wrong. I think especially for older generations, for some teachers you don't get like, for some teachers at high school level it's more specialized, but and typically you need the experience for it. But I think at junior high school level and stuff, and again sometimes teacher in general, like sometimes you're assigned a subject and then you have to become kind of good at that. It's very factory like here in Japan, where like you're given the school. You can't apply to a school to work at. You're just given a school. You're part of the system, and they will assign you where they need you, and you'll teach what they need you to teach. In more specialized cases, luckily they will assign people more specifically. But yeah, it's quite open like that. And so, and a cool thing though about Japan though, like in teaching English, is you don't have to know any Japanese. I came here with like a year or so of like self-study and things, so I had a foundation that didn't really help much actually. But there are plenty of people that come here with no Japanese, and you could do well because you're working in an English teaching environment. Your goal is to speak English, so you don't have to have Japanese at all. It's actually okay. I hear people in Japan get excited when you speak their language. It is 100% true. As McMark can attest, it's very true. I've asked this, but it's so funny. People just assume that you speak English stuff, but when you do try to speak Japanese, they are often delighted that you have made the effort. Because so many Japanese would be like, just the like, oh, why do you speak Japanese? It's like, well, because I live here. I think it's interesting language. Like, really, it's so difficult, isn't it? Like, even Japanese are like, man, our language sucks. So confusing. Yeah, they're genuinely like so like amazing. That's where the joke is like, Nihongo jozu, which is like, wow, you're great at Japanese. Oh, Nihongo jozu. Your Japanese is excellent. Like, even if you just do greetings, man. Even if you just like, I've literally been like, good morning in Japanese. Ohayo gozaimasu. And they're like, yes, go. They're just so impressed. Which is kind of sweet. It comes from an honest, humble place of just like, wow, you took the effort to learn a language. That's really cool.
During my long, tedious induction in Tokyo, during the first week, was that you should never correct a teacher in front of the classroom, lest you undermine them and make them look inferior in front of the class. So I spent my first few weeks conflicted, dying inside.
I heard this advice too.
If stepping in and telling the teacher that they were wrong would destroy my fragile relationship with my colleagues early on.
It depends on the teacher, doesn't it?
Which is really important. So let's do a 10-second pop quiz and see what you would do. Choose your own adventure. A, ignore the situation and carry on. Or B, tell them it's wrong and change it. Answer now.
Okay. I have done this experience, and I'll be honest, I have done both. If the teacher's like in a groove going, I probably won't interrupt unless it's if it's a small like mistake or glaring mistake, and fix the painfully obvious answer. I will often like, it depends on the teacher. If I'm comfortable with the teacher, I may correct him, like, oh, excuse me, and tell them, and almost every time they've been like, oh yeah, sorry. If I don't know them very well, it's already, or have not a great relationship, and I will wait till they finish talking, just kind of pump in like, oh, by the way, and I'll mention this spelling. A trick I do that's so useful is oftentimes I will like, if I like, sometimes I'll fix spelling in something, and I try to be polite about it because the teachers may be kind of prideful and embarrassed by it, and they're like, no, I thought this is, or like a grammar. Sometimes grammar, like they've heard it used in a certain situation, they've heard it used a certain way, and I will often say like, oh, maybe in British English they do that may be possible, but in American English we always do it this way. And so sometimes I'll use that as a kind of a polite way to give them an out. So like maybe they learned like a different kind of English. That's just something I like to do. It just depends on the teacher too. You gotta know. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I start doing A, I do more B. I think I do like just like,
Well done, the answer's B.
I'll pop
Because
it.
what's the point of even being there if you're going to stand in the corner and do nothing? And you
Fair
know
point.
what? I found by correcting them, it never burned any bridges, and they were grateful for the input. The worst classes, though, weren't with teachers that couldn't speak English. They were the ones with teachers who just didn't know how to use me in the classroom. And certainly in my first year, when I lacked confidence and I wasn't very assertive, more times than not, I was used as a human tape recorder.
Yes, that
standing
happens.
in front of the class, repeating an endless list of words, and then having students repeat them back out loud to practice their pronunciation. Pheasant. Pheasant. Shrubbery. Shrubbery. Consequences. By the time I was done, I must have said every single word in the English
Wait, that
language.
part's great.
By the time I was done,
There's often one kid who's just like mouthing along, doing his best, but
I must have said every single word in the English language at least 4 times. If you're already having a bad day and you find yourself standing in front of a classroom, repeating words over and over, wondering why you spent £30,000 on a university degree, you do start to question if you've taken the right pathway in life. The only thing worse than being a human tape recorder was the actual tape recorder. Oh god, we had audio tapes from the 90s, voiced by awkwardly enthusiastic yet ultimately unskilled American voice actors. They didn't speak like real American people. I've met an American person once, and it wasn't like that. It was like aliens
Joking.
had crash landed in a garden in Oregon, belonging to a couple who were arguing, and an alien looked through the window and tried to mimic what they were saying in slow motion. Hello, Lucy. I am home.
So where were you this evening, John?
Well, Lucy, I was working at the office again.
I saw the messages on your cell phone, John. I know what you've been doing.
Well, gee golly gosh, Lucy, get off my back. We're not going over this again.
I have had enough of your poor quality attitude, John. I am leaving you.
Comprehensive question 1. Why was Lucy suspicious of John?
pretty sure that was an actual recording. I mean, it sounds dead on. There are some of those kind of plain, like, more made to be clear to listen to, but they do sound a little awkward. One of my favorite things I still remember from teaching was we were doing like read repeat. I had to do read repeat for the students and stuff. And so like one of the lines was like, "Those jeans look really good on you, Sarah." And all the kids are like, "Those jeans look really good on you, Sarah." And I was like, no, like more enthusiasm, like, "Wow, those jeans look really good on you, Sarah." And they're, "Those jeans look really good on you, Sarah." It was such like a flirty sentence, but the students like didn't even register. They're just like, "All right, we'll say the sentence."
Oh, it was a fucking nightmare. By that point, I was practically begging to be a human tape recorder again. There were the teaching materials themselves, which had been written by non-native English speakers and came packed full of fun spelling errors, where you had to decide...
I'm sorry, wait, hold on. Well, hi, Yuki. Welcome to my house. Hi, John. Thank you very much for inviting me. Please come in. Thank you.
By non-native...
Our life is not a tragedy. It is full of challenges and adventures. We can do anything. We feel the same as you all do. Okay, I see.
English speakers
That was a little
and came
culty.
packed full
Okay.
of fun spelling errors, where you had to decide on the spot whether you went along with it or tried to correct it on the fly. Although some of them were simply beyond repair, like, "Are you aware of your own defect?" Although, to be fair, it is a great conversation starter for a first date. Once I had to read out a chapter from a textbook called Soccer Balls to Afghanistan, about how a Japanese school had handmade 200 soccer balls to ship off to Afghan children during the conflict, which is brilliant and noble, until I had to read out the phrase, "When we showed the children the balls, they gave us big smiles. It was like a magic." Imagine reading that out in front of 40 teenagers in a big, deep, booming voice, and then trying to maintain some degree of composure, which I simply didn't do, and I just laughed and looked like a sadistic bastard. Thankfully, though, after my first year, with a few hundred hours of classroom experience under my belt, I did become more proactive and assertive, and teachers became more confident, leaving me in charge and letting me do my own thing. And that was really when I was in my element, because look, I made a magazine.
Whoa.
Splendid magazine.
Splendid magazine. Last issue.
My unwavering hatred of Japanese English textbooks made me just throw them out the window. Not literally, unfortunately, although I should have done. But I started doing practical things. I started getting students using the English they'd learned to do things like short films, doing sketches, or in this case, making a magazine. And this was great. Students spent time researching a topic, then
that's
writing
really
it
cool.
out, adding some photos in. There's some good stuff in here. We've got Hayao Miyazaki, some handsome comedians.
Yeah, that's so cool. I want to say that. So as he said earlier, like the hardest classes are the ones where the teachers don't know how to use you, and you're just a voice recorder. They're just like, all right, repeat this stuff, and then they just do the whole lesson themselves. And it sucks. Like, you can get involved more, and sometimes it does take being assertive and being confident and just letting them know that you're willing to do more. And I have found that, I have found that many people complain that like teaching Japanese English and teaching English in Japan, like you are just a voice recorder, but it really depends on you. A lot of that can be on the teachers, but some of that can be on you too. Like if you do step up, if you ask to do things, you can do more. Like I at my first school, I taught at a high school. I got in a good rapport with the teachers, and I was very enthusiastic too. I just started. I wanted to like make a good impression. I want to like do well. I want to like help kids learn, and they let me run activities. So like they would kind of handle the grammar part of the lessons, and then I was allowed to do whatever I want for the last half of class to activate the learning, to help them like use that grammar point. I can make activities. I can do stuff. I found the textbooks. I think the textbooks have gotten better as over the past few years. Japan's really invested a lot of money in trying to improve the English and stuff. I think the teachers are catching up. A lot of the younger teachers, I think, are quite competent in having learned a lot about how to teach Japanese and stuff, how to learn how to teach English and things. Whereas the older teachers are still from like a different set of standards of times. And I do think it's gotten better, but yeah, if you can like encourage students, like kids are quite smart, and they are. I've learned this. Like I think kids can be so incredibly clever, so clever and so resourceful that we often like look at them like, oh, you know, children are young, blah blah blah. I think there's kind of I have this old person voice in my head like, oh, children are dumb and they don't know what they want. They just want sugar and Fortnite. But have you ever seen a kid play Fortnite? Those kids are monsters, man. They know what to do. Point is, if you do try to engage and talk to your teachers, you can actually do some creative projects like this and really push kids. Yeah, some kids are smarter than they get credit for. I think so. I think kids can understand more. I've heard teachers like explain things like in teaching Japanese and teaching English. Like I've heard some teachers like I've had teachers like translate everything, but they don't need to. The kids get it, and the kids that don't, like, if they don't get it, they're quickly able to figure out like, oh, I know what's going on. Like they deserve a lot of credit.
Oh yeah, McDonald's, now we're talking.
Oh, heck
It
yeah.
did mean a lot of extra time and effort for me. I mean, we did have to put this together, we binded it, and we gave every student a copy. But it was worth it. The students
Nice.
enjoyed it, I had fun. And the teachers thought I was a genius for unleashing this groundbreaking concept, the concept of having fun in the classroom. Still, even if I was VIP to big, not all classes went
What a nice
smoothly.
callback.
Like a gladiator
9 minutes
charging
in.
into the arena. You always
call
knew
back.
how things were going to go the moment you set foot in the classroom. In about 70% of my classes, I was given a hero's welcome to rapturous cheers and applause. Genuinely, it was brilliant. I'd walk in, everyone erupted, and you just knew it was going to be an amazing hour. The students saw my presence as an opportunity to break from the norm and do something that wasn't just read out of a textbook. The other 30% of the class...
Yeah, dude, that's so true. So I in many ways, I am the fun dad. I'm the fun parent in my classes. I have teachers who are quite serious and diligent, and they focus on the grammar stuff. But when I'm there, we know we're doing something fun. We're having some sort of activity. So I've definitely caught myself being the fun parent. Where I've had students be like, "Are you teaching today? Are you teaching today, Cody Sensei?" And I'm like, "No, we're going to do grammar today." And they're like, "Oh man, we want your lesson. Yours is so much more fun." And being a parent, being like, with parents you got to be a team, so you can't like always take credit. So I'm like, "No, guys, no, it's gonna be fine. We're gonna learn. It's gonna be so great." But inside I'm like, "Yeah, boy, I'm the one. I'm the fun one." Woo! It does feel good. It does feel good being the fun parent. Although you gotta find balance.
Classes were not so good.
And he said people applaud. I will walk in the class. I will walk in the classroom, and if they don't applaud, I walk back. I start again. Like, no, we're doing this again. And then like some kids will clap, and I'm like, woo! I try to do sort of rock star presence because it makes it fun. And I guess my ego likes it too. Anyway.
I'd walk in and feel like a convicted war criminal because it would just be silence and it'd be awkward and you'd feel like, fuck, what have I done? One problem you find in Japanese classrooms is students are often reluctant to put their hands up. In the UK, if you take a class of 30 students and a teacher asks a question, you often get, 7 or 8 hands up. But in Japan, it was never more than 2 in a room with 40 students. And it seems to be, in Japan, there's this culture around not making mistakes. The idea of making a mistake is really bad. And that starts off early on, especially in the classroom. True. And one of my most awkward memories of this happened in my first few weeks as a teacher when I was doing a class on British desserts.
Yeah, dude, like the fear of making mistakes is so real. It is so real. Oh, thanks for reminding me to drink. I do gotta stay hydrated after like a dizzy morning. I will say, like, the fear of making mistakes is so true. There's so many students who, like, are competent and can speak. When they do speak, they can speak quite well. But they're just so scared of making a mistake in front of their peers. And I kind of got that too in high school. Like when I was a kid, like I hated to to be looked down on. Oh God, I did pause on food, didn't I?
Now, one of the things we're encouraged to do as an English teacher is to introduce your culture into
go
the
away.
classroom. In this case...
Oh, there we go. Okay, let's go back to him. Oh, what a perfect view to step on. But it's true. There's a lot of fear of making mistakes, to the point where I rarely ask students to raise their hands because just most of them won't. You have to find other ways to call on students, and asking is just. I will say, elementary kids are super active, super ready to answer. They want to show how smart they are. Junior high school kids, it starts to go down. By high school age, most of them, unless you have a really small and very comfortable class, a lot of them just like won't even answer. They just don't want to. They don't be found out. And it extends beyond school. So when my wife was at her jobs, at the job she's had, like, there is definitely a expectation that you should not make mistakes, which is bizarre. Like obviously when you start anything, you're going to make mistakes. Like mistakes are, dude, you guys want to learn? You want to learn something? Make mistakes, man. Mistakes are like the fast track to learning. Because when you make a mistake, you then realize it. Whenever you like do something well, whenever you pass something, you just kind of move on, don't you? You just like, I did well, move on, next thing. But when you make a mistake, it's like, oh God, I messed up. And then sometimes you have to pay for that mistake. And it's such a great way to learn. Like that, it gets embedded in you. It's like, oh, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Depending. Sometimes we do. But even in work culture too, there's that kind of expectations. Like you shouldn't it's bad to make mistakes. When I believe, dude, like mistakes are so natural, normal. And I encourage my students, like, dude, make mistakes. Like, you will learn so much faster if you make mistakes. And don't worry about it. Like, no one cares. No one, when you stay up late at night thinking about all the stupid stuff you did as a kid, and like, oh, that's like, I told the waiter to enjoy their meal. Oh, God, they weren't even eating. They're not going to enjoy their meal. That was so stupid. You're probably the one that thinks about that. Unless it was really embarrassing. And then others might think about it. Probably it's just you.
British culture, and for this particular activity I gave them a list of British desserts and the photos to go with them, and then they had to use their dictionaries to look up the words and try and work out which one went with which. Suffice to say, I made a spectacular blunder by adding spotted dick into that list. Hilarity ensued. And then after that activity, students had to memorise the words and then go up and spell it from memory on the chalkboard. But the hardest dessert to recall and spell on the board was the ice cream dessert Knickerbocker Glory. And to be fair, not even I really know how to spell that.
Knickerbocker Glory, it's glorious.
In the class bold enough to write it was a really shy kid at the front of the room who kind of kept to himself. He didn't talk to anyone. And for some reason, he felt this was his moment. So we came up to the chalkboard and I said to him, right, the word is Knickerbocker Glory. And he picked up the piece of chalk and he wrote on the board, and this is true, Knickerpoker G. Which to me sounds like a charismatic master of Texas Hold'em poker. And no sooner had he sat down that the class erupted into laughter. They found this hilarious, as they could see that it was a spectacular error. They could see that he'd got it completely and utterly wrong. But I went along with it. I said, oh, it's not Knickerpoker G, but that'd be a great name. That'd be a cool name. And amidst the laughter, all of a sudden there was a loud banging noise, and the guy had thrown his textbooks all over the room. He had banged the table. And he started kicking the desk. It was really awkward. And whole room just went silent straight away. The teacher had to jump in and say,
I thought you were still...
I'm sorry about this.
I thought it was a bit for a second.
But it made me realise why students often don't try to make mistakes. Why stand out and get laughed at? Where you can just keep your head down and do nothing. Fortunately, that experience did happen early on. And for the next 2 years, whenever a student put their hand up or took a risk, regardless of whether they got the question right or not, I would encourage them or reward them. I'd give them a high five. I'd say well done. Anything to show that to try and fail is an important part of language learning. I wanted them to adopt a risk-taking mentality. You know, the sort of risk-taking mentality you'd expect from someone like Nick Apoka G. Yeah, dude,
I definitely like encourage I just any effort someone takes to put themselves out there, like I'm so encouraging of it. Like I just like if students are dead wrong, I'm like, ooh, so close, nice. I get enthusiastic, like, oh, so good try, thank you for trying, because that's what's so important. It's like just getting the effort. The more you can learn to put yourself out there and take those risks, the sooner you can make the mistake, feel embarrassed, and get over it, the faster you can go in life, man. We spend so much time and energy trying to avoid bad situations that we don't even like avoiding things that never happen too. Like we spend so much effort trying to avoid these things when really it's not so bad, man. You don't learn if you don't fail. Yeah. It's the people like, oh, so real quick, like people think that to build confidence, you have to succeed and do well. That is not true. The key to building confidence is failing and realizing you're okay. And if you notice this, have you ever like been really good at something and then you do screw up? Like you have like a winning streak and then you mess up. You're like, oh crap, I messed up so bad. Like it's kind of devastating, more so because like you're not used to it. But if you suck from the beginning, if you're bad at something and then see yourself getting better, it's much more satisfying. Being good at something does not in itself guarantee confidence. In fact, it can guarantee an expectation of succeeding, which is more devastating when you fail. So being able to encounter those mishaps and shortcomings, and you can see this if you have like a friend, you know, who's maybe comes from like a rich family or spoiled or has very few little like, you know, problems and personal troubles, like the things that do stop them and get them devastated are kind of simple, like stuff you may have encountered, like we've probably been through. Like I you know, there are so many different like troubles and struggles that I went through that helped me be a better person so quickly, that I've seen friends stumble through those same situations now in their like late 20s, and it's like, oh really, I went through that. It's kind of, I have to remind myself like, oh, like they've probably never encountered that, and it hits them so hard, man. What's the phrase I'm thinking of? Failure is the greatest teacher. I think something like that. Yeah. Failure is the greatest teacher. Something like that. Mistakes are great teachers. Like, yeah, like it's so true though. I've learned to embrace making mistakes. The sooner I can make a mistake, the sooner I can correct something that I misunderstood or believe it to be true. Like as soon as I correct it, like, oh, I'm better for it. Man, I'm so into mistakes. I make a lot of them.
Probably imagine I wasn't overly serious. I didn't want students to feel intimidated when coming over to me and just chatting with me in the corridor. I didn't want a repeat of my ex-girlfriend's mum, by all accounts. And because they were senior students on the brink of making big life decisions, I loved chatting to them about their dreams and aspirations in life. I remember one time we did a lesson on life goals, and as an initial example I talked about how when I was a kid, when I was your age, I wanted to be James Bond, but unfortunately for various reasons that didn't work out. And the class genuinely felt sorry for me that I'd not been able to fulfill my dream of becoming a fictional character. Nevertheless, the next day I went to the staff room and I went to my desk and I found this on it. It's a poster for the James Bond film Skyfall. There's a little note on it that says, "Dear Chris, I think you can still make it. Don't give up your dream, not to regret, from Bond Girl." How amazing is that? I mean, this alone just shows you how awesome the students are. And you know what? Every day I look at this poster on the wall and I know if I believe in it hard enough, my dream of becoming James Bond still won't come true. Objectively speaking, was I a good English teacher?
That's the truth. I will say, in my experience, teaching elementary school is fun because the students are very enthusiastic. But I really enjoyed teaching high school because by high school, kids really have their own personalities and identities. I as a kid, you just, I mean, as young kids, like you just like whatever. You just like games, TV, stuff, like kind of sports, you know, kind of like basic stuff. But by high school, they start really branching off and liking their own, you know, very specific hobbies, specific interests. And a lot of them are constantly being asked, like, what are you going to do for the future? What are you doing in the future? And so they're having to like have those like thoughts and like, what do I want to do in the future? And I love it. Like, I'd have kids tell me kind of awkward, like, oh, I want to be a voice actor. And I'm like, you want to be a voice actor? And they're like, yeah, on YouTube. I'm like, oh my God, do it. Do it. Try it. I don't know. You're young. Try whatever. Like, be a voice actor. Yeah, do it. Some kids want to go into acting. I talked with a lot of the acting kids. That's my interest. So I talked to a lot of them. Like, yeah, dude. Some kids like, I want to be a pro baseball player. Give it a shot, bro. And I really believe, personally, I believe that the direction is more important than the destination. I really believe direction is more important than destination. If you're striving to achieve something, if you want to be a pro baseball player, go for it. You may not make it, and that's okay. The amount of effort and work you put towards that can better you as a person. And then how many times have you had like a goal? Have you had like some project you're working towards, something you're trying to achieve? You're trying to beat that stupid boss in that stupid Dark Souls game. And when you do beat it, you don't feel, sometimes you feel like, oh my God, I did it. But sometimes you're just glad it's done. You know, it's just done. You're just glad it's behind you. And that sucks. It sucks that our achievements, oftentimes the achievement itself does not bring the satisfaction you expect. It's often like we assume like this is the thing, you know, if I buy this thing, it's going to make me happy. When I get that brand new game system, when I buy that phone, it's going to make me happy. But once you do, you're happy for a couple weeks, but it goes back down. And there's that kind of emptiness of like, oh, well, what's the next thing to fill the void? And that's why, like, I really think like having those goals, like encouraging your kids to do whatever, to follow your dreams. Oh my God, so important, man. When I was younger, I wanted to be a wrestler. That's so cool. That's such a cool chance. And you know what? Hey, you don't know. Maybe one day you're going to be like 45 and have kids, and they have some sort of school fundraiser, and they have some sort of wrestling competition with parents, and you're like, this is my chance. It could still happen, man. But that's so cool. Yeah, when I was young, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a fighter jet pilot. That was the thing I wanted to do. I want to be a fighter. I want to be like Star Fox, basically. I want to be a fighter jet pilot. That was the dream. It didn't happen. But that was okay. This was a cool dream. And who knows? Maybe I will. I probably not. I get motion sickness, but hey. Anyway, teaching.
Teacher. Of course I fucking was. I made a magazine, didn't I? No, in my first year I was awful. I lacked experience, I lacked confidence, and I spent far too much time sitting in the staff room at my desk with my head down. But by my second year, I could just walk into a classroom at a moment's notice and conjure up a lesson plan out of thin air.
Yes.
I knew dozens of students on a first-name basis, and I got on really well with all the teachers. All in all, I really did love the job by my second year. And the teachers did a fantastic job of making you feel way more important than you actually were. I remember in my second year, I had to go and get the contract for my new year from the intimidating but undeniably suave school principal. And he handed me the contract, the paper contract, like this, as if he were bestowing me with a legendary sword of some sort. And he looked at me and he said in perfect English, for the first time I'd heard it, he said, "We need your help again."
Oh my God, that's
said,
so cool.
"Yoroshiku onegai itashimasu." And I took the paper, and it was spectacularly theatrical. I felt like a samurai who had just liberated a town from ruthless bandits. It's still the closest I've come to having my last samurai moment. So unsurprisingly, I signed up for a third year after that. But unfortunately, by that point, the school principal had left, and we had a new school principal who wasn't quite as dramatic. And he handed me the paper and he said, "Go and teach English." And I went, yeah, all right then. Suffice to say, I didn't sign up for a fourth year. But fundamentally, by that point, I'd done everything I could, and I no longer felt like I was pushing myself or challenging myself anymore. And a lot of my favourite students had graduated and moved on, and I felt like it was time for me to move on as well. If you do ever teach in Japan, though, do hold on to, things like this, because reading over comments like the ones in this book did take me back to a time in my life that brought me a lot more joy than I ever realised. Spending my time alongside fantastic teachers and students who made every day worth going into work. I can't say whether or not I had any real impact as a teacher, but I'd like to think for the 2,000 or so hours that I stood there in front of the students in the classroom, I at least made their time studying the English language just that little bit more bearable. If I could go back in time to 2011 and meet my past self writing this JET application form in the university,
I have some more thoughts
would I
I'll
tell
add at
him
the end
to
of
go
this
through
one
with
done,
it?
so.
Absolutely. I would tell him it's going to be worth every minute of it. I would tell him it's going to change him for the better. And perhaps above all, I would tell him not to put his fucking cup of tea on the application form, because it's just an absolute disgrace, isn't it? So those are just a few stories from my 3 years as a teacher. I will be talking about more experiences in the future, but
cool
if you do
outro.
have any comments or questions about teaching in Japan, fire away in the comments below and I'll try and answer as many as I can. And finally, for more extra behind the
school
scenes
bell in the
content,
background.
do check out the Abroad in Japan Patreon page. But for now, guys, as always, many thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
That was wonderful. I to add to the last part, I had a similar experience where my first year was new. I was trying to get the hang of things and I was kind of really excited. And I think the enthusiasm overtook the kind of fear and any fear and worry. Like, there's a lot, I was nervous. I hate public speaking. I've come to like it. But at that time too, I was super nervous and so scared. But second year I was like, I got it. My third year, I was, like he said, I could walk in a classroom and immediately be like, hey, you're teaching, plans change. You're teaching today. All right, cool. I like to think my first year, I would walk in the classroom and be like, oh no, I have no lesson plan. What do I do? Oh God, what do we do? What's the lesson today? Second year, it's like, okay, I got this. Third year, I'd walk in, shades on, like, what's up, punks? Let's learn some English. And it was great. And they would cheer and clap and, hashtag that really happened. I definitely, my last years, I felt, quite confident, but similar to, like, you definitely, I'm a kind of person that needs to be some sort of challenge and stimulation to keep me invested. And yeah, by the third year, everything was so kind of routine and going on. It was kind of drag. I would have stayed a bit longer, but they wouldn't let me, my contract. I couldn't sign up for another year. And that's when I switched to a private school. But man, it was quite fun. Teaching is an interesting experience. Now, I'm going to take a quick, he's got me feeling kind of nostalgic. So I'm going to run downstairs real quick. I'll be back in just a minute. And I have a couple like these kind of cool, collectible things. So I do have a few of these. Here are just a few. I've taught, 6 years now. I've taught thousands of students and have had hundreds of classes. So I have like, as you come and go, they'll make posters and stuff when you leave. It's quite cool. Here's just a handful. Now, the high school I taught at had like classes. Instead of like 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, they were like, it was like Jingumi, Gigumi, Shingumi. They were named after like, they had different kanji meanings. Like Jin means like kind of people. So there's some cool ones. Thank you. Hold on. I need a sec. I'm out of breath. I ran up and down the stairs trying to get this right. Whew. Let's see. Jingumi was a fun class. Remember me when you were sad. Goodbye. That's so cute. Cody, thank you for helping. I love you. Aw, I love you too. Is that Kirby? Oh, it's Kirby. I think it's like a Kirby character. Oh, no, it has horns. I think it's just a goat. Luckily, I use my real name now, so I can read these. Thank you for teaching us English. It was very fun. Love you, Cody. Aw, I love my students, man. They were such good kids. Yeah. Oh, wow. Let me find some like cool colorful ones. Man, look at this one. So some of them, I taught pretty well. Look at that. I was very enjoyed English lesson. I enjoyed game with English. I was looking forward to seeing Cody. Thank you very much. Take good care of yourself. Thank you, Miyu. Aw. Dude, so these kids I taught like, I think this is my last year when I was at the school. So which was in 2020, I think they finished. So some of them like, they're like functioning adults now, which is terrifying to think. Look at this one. Cody, very, very thank you. I love you. Aw. All the students say love a lot, which I'm glad, because like that's my person. I use love all the time. Dude, I love this. I love chicken. I love this. I love that. And I think the kids found it adorable. One ok rock, I was king. That's a band name. Maybe it's the name of the song. Yeah, these are so cute. Aw. Let me check. Okay, hold on. I want to check Shingumi. Shingumi had a... Oh, no, here it is. Regumi? Is this the one? Yeah, holy crap. Okay, so yes, this is the one I want to show, actually, specifically. So, in this class, I had one of my favorite students who was an artist, and she was so sweet and she was so nice. She was so easily like embarrassed too. It was so cute. Like she gets super excited about stuff. She was the kind of student who like games, and so like I talk about games. She's like, hey, oh, you know, like Zelda? I was like, oh, Zelda, I love Zelda. She would get so, that was her. She'd get so excited. So she made this for me, because we were talking about Zelda and how much we like Breath of the Wild, and she made this freaking masterpiece. Look at that. She drew the characters separately, then cut them out and pasted it to it. But look, we got Mipha, Zelda, and Zelda of sequel. Oh my god. They are your favorite Zelda and Mipha. I told her I like Mipha. Like Mipha's awesome. I tried really hard to make it for you. This is so cool. Some I've had a lot of these over the years, so some come and some go. But this one I made sure to keep because I just thought it was so cool. Look at that, dude. I swear, if I could like contact her, I would love to get her to like design T-shirts or something to use her art. I would love to pay her for a painting or something. She's so talented. Man, so many good ones. Thank you for what you have done. Your class was very fun for me. Happiness. Please remember this song when you feel sad. Happiness is Arashi's song. You get energetic when you listen to the song. So cute. Oh man, this got me kind of nostalgic. Yeah, when stream is over, I'll probably just go looking through these again. I might show my wife and be like, look, I was important. They loved me. Yeah, dude. I really got along, especially with the kind of art kids and stuff. Oh my gosh. Look at this one. Thank you. And there's a picture. I took a picture with these two students after school. So this is like after school picture. And so one of them used it as a copy. Look at how curly my hair is. Man, this is so cute. Dear Cody, thank you so much. Hope to see you again. Hope you'll come back to Shimosho sometime. The school's called Shimosho. Kawaii. Yeah, I wonder how they're all doing. Man, they're all functioning adults now. Scary to imagine. Very scary. Yeah, Zelda's amazing. But we love you, Cody. Oh, thank you, Dragon. Thank you, guys. All right, that's the end of this video. We're gonna watch something else after this, but yeah, this is so nostalgic. I will say teaching English is a great way to come to Japan if you're interested. I know there's a bit of a I obviously like him and most people, like, you know, I didn't come to Japan to teach English. My goal was to come to Japan. Teaching English was just the method of which I could do it, but I learned to love it. I quite enjoy it. I don't think I'll teach forever, but I think in some capacity I will be teaching. I think in some capacity, like with YouTube and stuff, for example, I like the idea of sharing knowledge and educating. I think it's really cool, but teaching in classroom may not be the fit for me forever, but I had a great time. I still do it now. And man, it's been really cool. I think this was a good video. I agree with a lot of the experience too. A lot of the ups and downs. Definitely depends also like how teachers like use you. That you are meant to be. So the role is assistant language. This specifically is ALT, assistant language teacher. So your role is to help supplement the class and help assist in teaching. And a lot of that depends on the homeroom teacher or the English teacher themselves. Like they kind of decide how to use you. And I've had great teachers that I work with like in sync. It's just like back and forth, perfect. I've had some where it's completely different wavelengths. It just depends. A funny saying that you often hear in the English teaching community is every experience is different, which is so true. My experience living in kind of rural areas is totally different from someone living in a city and in big cities like Tokyo and stuff. Totally different, just depends. So yeah, if you're interested, I recommend like, hey, try JET program is probably the best way to do it. It's the most official kind of big ones. There's some other kind of recruiting companies. They tend to get more shady as you go along, or more yeah, like they're more interested in just kind of bringing people over and using them to do the stuff. But JET program's really good. I can speak to that. English well speak do I. As do I. I do speak the English I somewhat think good. Anyway, hey, if you're watching this, if you made it this far in the video, because this will be on YouTube, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. If you have any questions about teaching in Japan, I would be happy to answer. I do not have many followers and subscribers, so I got plenty of time to answer. Oh, she's doing stuff. Dude, I could do an entire cast stream. It'd probably be way more popular than me.